Okay, I'm back, and my download has finished. So I appear to have downloaded Eclipse. So now what we're going to do is run through the install. So I'm using Safari, and my download is going to end up in a downloads directory. So I am going to go to my home directory, look at my downloads, which is right here. And lo and behold, I have the Eclipse Indigo that I've downloaded. So to install it, it's going to be very similar to the Android tools. I'm going to double click on this because it's a tar file, and it's going to unzip for me. And I'm going to take this, the folder is called Eclipse. I'm just going to temporarily drag it out to my desktop, it makes it easier for myself. I'm going to throw away this tar file. I'm going to stick it in here in the trash. I'm going to close this. I'm going to close my Eclipse, I'm going to close my Safari web browser, and I am going to take this folder and drag it, put it to the same location that I stuck my Android folder. So I'm going to my home directory, and you might remember that I stuck out here in Android on here. So I'm going to take Eclipse and I'm going to drag it over and stick it right next to it. So if I double click on the Eclipse folder and I look at it, I see I have an executable file. Looks like this is the executable, I should say. It looks like a round circle with it looks like 4 lines going across it. I like to, add things to my dock, make it easier for me to find something. So I'm just going to drag it over here and stick it on my dock. I think I'll stick it right here next to Xcode. So now I have installed it, but let's see if it works. So I'm going to go to the dock here, and I'm going to click on the Eclipse, and I'm going to get this message that comes up. It says Eclipse is an application downloaded from the internet. Yeah, I know that. Are you sure you want to open it? Yeah, sure. Why not? So I clicked on Open, and now I get this. Yours isn't going to look that big. It's probably like that big. I get this little Indigo. Where it says Indigo, here's the version number. Eclipse. And I'm going to get this little message that comes up that's going to want me to define a workspace. And so previously I've been putting everything in my home directory. This wants me to put it in documents, and I'm not really quite sure I want to do that. Instead, I'm just going to make workspace. I'm going to take this documents out, and this would essentially stick it in user bhacker workspace, which is going to be user in my home directory, which is going to be user bhacker workspace is going to end up out here. So if I go ahead and press, and I'm going to click on this button here that says to use this as my default and don't ask me again. What the workspace is the directory location where your Eclipse projects are going to be saved. So you don't have to go hunting around for them all over the place. On a Windows machine, everything's in my documents or my projects or something. Eclipse uses a default directory called workspace. So when we create a new project in Eclipse, it's going to locate it, or it's going to, save the project in the workspace directory or folder. So I pressed on OK, and you can actually kind of see in the background here. Make this a little smaller so you can kind of see it. Workspace was now created, and workspace is going to be empty because I don't have any projects yet, but it basically got loaded and it was stuck in here. So now this is in the background here. We had the Eclipse open up. I'm just going to close it again so you can just sort of see what happened. Here, exit Eclipse, always ask no. So I'm going to go OK. Because I had that other window open. So I'm going to open it up one more time just so you can see what happens when it opens. This is what should happen on your computer. The next time you open it up, you'll see this little line that goes across the bottom. It opens up pretty quickly, I think. Loads the workbench. And then now we see this, and let me zoom out a little bit so we can actually see it. We see this window that comes up. This is only going to show one time, and it's kind of like, it gives you the ability to run through a tutorial. So if you hover your mouse over these like little menu clickable, this one's not clickable, but this one, this one here, this one here, this one here, and this one here is clickable. I'm eventually just going to go to Workbench, but you might want to go through the overview. You might also want to, see what's new, look at some samples if you want, some tutorials. It'll orient you to the Eclipse IDE. But I'm just going to go to Workbench, so I'm going to click on this button here. And this is what they call the Workbench. It's your ability to modify, create projects, modify things. It's a nifty little interface. I believe it's a little too crowded for my taste, so I usually like to close this task list over here, and I'm going to close the outline. And so now I'm going to leave it with these three panes. The pane on the left is going to be the Project Explorer, so when I create a new project, all of the files are going to appear on the left. And over here is where documents are going to open up when I double click on them over here. And then down here, this is where I'm going to see stuff. And what I'm going to see down here is just, you know, the output of a program, any problems, any error messages, and stuff like that. So if I go in some of the Eclipse directories and I go File, Open, I see it. I've got Java Project. I've got, you know, project itself. I've got some JUnit that was also installed in here as well for Java. But I don't really see too many options. In fact, I don't see anything for Android because by default we don't get any Android stuff with this. So we have to add the Android to the Eclipse browser. So if I go back, and what we're adding is the Android SDK, which is going to give us our project types for Android and stuff like that. So we've uncompressed the Eclipse. We've done step 9. We've downloaded it, uncompressed it, installed it, and for a Mac you just drag it over. You know, drag the folder over, put it where you want to put it, double click on that Eclipse, that purple little icon thing, and it runs the program for you. And you know, you have to manually add it to the menu on the bottom there. Okay, so now we're going to install the Android packages in Eclipse, and this is step number 12. And so we're going to click on Menu, Help, and then Install New Software, and then we're going to enter this URL into the location field. So I'm going to like copy this here so I don't have, because this is not a clickable link. You can't just click on it and download from there. It has to be downloaded from within the Eclipse browser. So I've copied this here, highlighted it and copied it, and I'm going to go to Menu, Help, Install New Software. So I'm going to go back to Eclipse, and I'm going to make this a little bigger so you can see it. Up here on the menu, there's a Help, and then on the Help, we have Install New Software. So this is what it's talking about. On the top menu bar, we see the menu Help item, Help. We don't need to check for updates, we just downloaded this, it's brand new. Install New Software, so I'm going to click on Install New Software, and this is where you need to paste that URL. So type or select the site. Well, I'm going to hopefully paste this in here, and there we go. And now I'm going to click on the Add button over here to add this as a source. So this will become available software from this particular source. And what is this source? Well, it's Google Android is what this is. It's the download site for Google Android, which is basically the same spot where we downloaded before the Android SDK and added it in. So I'm going to click on Add. I'm going to give it a name. Well, actually, you know what? I'm going to paste again in here and call it the same thing. So I'm adding the repository. I'm going to call the repository by the same name. That way I can kind of remember what it is actually. So I'm going to press on OK. And now what it's doing is going out and finding software at this particular site, which is why it says pending over here. And then now it's going to say, oh, developer tools. And this is the developer tools for Android. So if I click on this box down here, or if I open up the arrow, I can see what I'm going to get. And these are the Android tools that need to be downloaded for development inside of Eclipse. And so it's the DDMS, the development tools, the hierarchical viewer, the trace viewer, the basic tools. So you just select the developer tools, and on the bottom of the screen here, there's going to be a next. So let me make this smaller so you can see the whole screen in one view. So I've selected this. You don't have to open it up. You can just leave it like that if you want. Leave the other options essentially at what their defaults are. I'm going to select the next button. You see on the bottom now it says creating requirements and stuff, and it brought me back to here to tell me what these install details were. So this is reviewing the items that it felt it needed to install, which was actually everything because I hadn't installed this before on this computer. So it's going to find and it's going to add everything that it needs. I'm going to click the next button on the bottom of the screen, and I'm going to have to accept a license. So I'm going to select at the bottom of the screen here again. It says I accept the terms of this license, and it's the license, the Apache. It's open source licenses, Apache license and stuff, and everything you need essentially for the Android. And then I'm going to click on the Finish button, and the Finish button is going to bring me to this little screen here. It says Installing Software. And you could click on the Run in the background, but this doesn't take very much time. It only takes a few minutes. So I'm just going to sit here and watch it run. It's fetching the software that it needs. So it's, as we're working through, you can kind of see it's half done at this point. It's not too bad. It's not going to take that long. And now we're going to get a security warning that you're installing software that contains unsigned content. Well, that's okay. It doesn't really matter. Authenticity, validity, whatever. I'm going to press on OK. So you want to select OK, otherwise this is not going to download correctly. So on the security warning, you just say OK. It just means it's unsigned and it's open source. So now we have some software updates. So it says you need to restart Eclipse from the installation changes to take place. And you may try to apply the new changes without restarting, but this may cause some errors. So let's just restart now. So I'm going to press Restart Now. And what's going on now in the background is Eclipse is reloading again. So while Eclipse is reloading, which is not going to take very much time, just installing the packages that it needs, you'll see it runs pretty quickly, actually. And then now we have Eclipse back up. And then now I have a Welcome to Android Development. Oh, so it's recognized the development, which is nice. And it's going to ask me up here, it says Target Location. So remember when we downloaded and copied over the Android SDKs, and I changed the name of that directory. I changed it to Android, and I took away the SDKs, the -SDKs. So what I just did a few minutes ago is I backspaced over to make it match the same name as the folder. And so we're going to take and look at this target location right here in terms of installing the latest and using the latest APIs, which we've already installed prior to loading on Eclipse, if you remember. And this directory location, just make sure it matches where you put the Android folder. And just to reiterate the point, I put it right here, and it's a lowercase Android, and it's a lowercase Android here. It's under Users, vHacker. So this is the correct location. It's also the correct location where I put Eclipse, and I actually just put the workspace there too as well. So I have it all conveniently located in the same location. I just do that because I can't, I don't want to have to remember where I stuck things. So I'm going to go next on this, and then it's going to say send user statistics to Google. I don't like those I'm going to say no because, I don't know, I don't like sending email messages out of my computer every time an error message happens. So I'm going to select Finish at this point. You may want to, and if you read the screen, it just basically, there's a little description here, and it just says you want to send usage statistics to Google. I don't know, I'm kind of a privacy freak, so I'm not going to do it, but you may want to. So hit Finished. And we get this little SDK manager that pops up that fetches, and it's basically just adding the repository to the development tools, and this is at that location for which we selected. And so I'm going to say accept all over here on the license agreements, and it's going to update. What it's going to do is going to update the SDK tools for us. This is not going to take an hour or 2 hours. This is going to take maybe 5 minutes at the most. So I'm going to press on the install. And I'm actually just going to sit here and kind of wait for this because I don't think this is going to take as long as the original download because we've downloaded mostly everything already. But I see we're getting a new revision, number 15, being added in here. So we'll give it a few minutes. It's just going to update, essentially. It's updating it from a different location than when we originally installed it. So we'll give it a few minutes and we'll go back to the instructions while this is working. And if I look at the instructions, so I'll make it a little smaller so I can actually see the instructions. We were on step number 12. We installed the Android packages into Eclipse. We did the add button. We installed the developer tools. Now we can configure Eclipse by just double checking the configuration. We can click on the window preferences and include the Android folder, which I believe we just did in an automated kind of way. The newer version of the tool set appears to have included that step. In the older ones didn't have this, but we should check it. So we should go to Windows Preferences and make sure that the Android folder is correctly specified. And then we're going to take a break and congratulate ourselves because we've just finished everything. So this is really the last step that we're working on. So once this downloads, and let's go back to it real quick here to see, we're still working here. I don't think I can't get past this window here. I basically have to sit here for a few minutes. It's running pretty fast now. So what do they say? A watched pot never boils, but now that we started watching this, it's starting to boil. So I don't know. That's an old saying if you're not familiar with that. But let's just give it a few minutes. So once this ends, I want to check the preferences just to make sure the directory is correct. And then I'm going to close Eclipse and I'm going to open it back up. It's not a bad idea to open and close Eclipse after you've done installing something, and then let it back. Only because then it'll reset the environment variables correctly, and it will all just sort of work. I have noticed in the past when I've made changes to the configuration that they don't take immediate effect until after you restart Eclipse. So, and Eclipse was written in Java, which is kind of interesting as well. So, and you might find Eclipse, you can use it for C++ development, you can use it for Python, for PHP. There's a lot of different modules. If you go out on back out on that Eclipse site where we downloaded this from, you can see that there's all sorts of different versions and information. And basically you just have to make sure you get the 32 or the 64 depending upon what you're running, and then also make sure that you're installing what it is you want to use, because the browser, the Eclipse browser interface window is customized for the development tools, and we're going to see in a few minutes we're going to have some menu options for Android development, and it's going to basically look like an Android development tool any minute now. So we are almost done here. Looks like it's getting towards the end. The hard part's over with. I'm a bit impatient when it comes to these screens. I like to click around. And I normally, if I weren't recording this, I'd be checking my email or I'd be doing something. And the interesting thing is, I don't really think it's advisable either, only because you're not going to catch error messages and things that might show up. So either that or it gets hung or it finishes long before I notice it's actually done. So I'm gonna be patient. I'm just gonna sit here and wait for this to end. And I can, kind of tell you what I'm gonna do in the next video, perhaps preview it for you. When this finishes, we're gonna open up a sample project. I'm gonna, it's like a hello world, and I'm gonna show you a couple of different parts of the interface, and we're gonna run the emulator so we can see the project work and check our development tools. And in order for us to run the emulator, we're going to actually have to set up a virtual device. So we'll go through that as well. But in the next tutorial, I'm going to start out with a hello world built from scratch. So you'll see how the pieces come together. And it's kind of a necessary step, although you can skip it and start, and some further steps down the road, working at services and Google features and things. It makes a lot of sense to start with the basics for this. And I'm going to assume that you have a Java programming background as well. The students that are taking this course at ITU, they've already taken the Object-Oriented Programming in Java course, and this is an extension of that course. So if you haven't taken the Object-Oriented Programming course, it's not a bad idea. In fact, I've got all the lecture videos out here on YouTube. You can review the videos and kind of take the course on your own and kind of get up to speed. Knowing a little bit about Java programming will help you because this is all written in Java. Okay, so now we have a message to restart the ADB. I'm going to say yes. I'm going to restart it. And so now I have some status on the bottom here, and the status on the window is basically the status of the download of the update of the version. Kind of look like the output window, the log file we saw in the when we downloaded and installed from the SDK Manager. So it's basically running the SDK Manager inside of Eclipse now. It's a necessary step, although we didn't have to, because technically we already have installed from the SDK Manager. We installed all those APIs. We installed a lot of them, but it's kind of not a bad idea to run from Eclipse. That way you make sure your configuration is correct. You're not going to get any weird error messages that are coming out of it. So now, if, as I mentioned before, I want to close this and I want to start it over again. So I'm going to go and I'm going to run it from scratch. which, is an extra couple steps, but it's worth it, only because now I know everything is reset correctly. And now when Eclipse comes up, see, it didn't take too long. Now when Eclipse comes up, I can go to the menu items here, and I can go File, New, and I can go, Project, or I can go like Reflector Android, and you can kind of see now we have options in the menu here. We have AVD Manager in here, Android SDK Manager in here. We have menu options that are installed inside of Eclipse for the different types of projects. So if I go here, New Project, it's going to give me project types that Eclipse is familiar with. And let me make this screen a little bit bigger so you can kind of see here. And one of the project types is called Android. And we can do an Android sample project, or we can just do an Android project or a test. I'm just going to do a generic Android project so we can test the compiler and make sure it works. I'm going to hit the next button. I'm going to call this Hello World, because really what it is, I'm not going to do anything with it. I'm just going to create a Hello World. So create a new project in the workspace. We know about that. We know where that's going to go. And it's going to be called Hello World. It's going to use the default location here, which is going to be users bhacker workspace Hello World. So I'm going to press Next on here. And it's going to ask me what version of API. So you notice we've seen all of this. Let's just use the 4.0. But we could switch it, go to the standard, to the other APIs if we wanted to. Because I downloaded everything to 3. If you've noticed here, it stops at 3. Which means if it's not in here, you got to use the SDK manager. And if you want to do that, you can just go up to the menu and use the SDK manager right from Eclipse and install the 2.1, 2.2, and all the other ones I didn't install. But my options are only going to be up to 3 because that's all I installed. I'm going to hit Next. And it's going to ask me for a package name. And I'm just going to call this, I'm going to change this for a second and just go my dot package. I don't think I can use the keyword pack. My pack test. My pack test. I'm going to talk about packages a little bit later on in the course, but it doesn't really matter right now what I'm putting there for the purposes of this project. This is sort of like the package location, the directory location. We're going to store all the files that are associated with this project that I'm going to create. So I just clicked on Finish there a few minutes ago. And now you can kind of see where I've got in here, what do I have an X in here? I've got the source code in here. And the source code in here is telling me that this package probably doesn't exist now. No. Okay, the X went away. As you saw before, probably not a bad thing to kind of go back and look at. I saw like an X on here a few minutes ago, and the X went away because it was probably building the package location that didn't exist. So if I open this up, I'm going to see it in the SRS directory here, and the SRS directory is going to have my pack test, which is that package that didn't exist before. It made it out in my directory structure. And in here I've got it's got one class, essentially. It's called Hello World Activity.java. And I'm going to wait and go over the parts of this program in more detail in the next video. But at this point we want to make sure we're working. So if I double click on here, I should see the source code here. I shouldn't see any red marks or anything. It should look like this. And here I've got Hello World Activity, extends activity. Well, activity is just basically going to put the words Hello World out on the screen. And so the source, and I want to show you something. I want to go out into DOS and actually, not into DOS, out into my home directory and look in workspaces and see now I have Hello World. This is what I just created. So I went back out to my home directory location where I've been storing. I said, use workspace out here, put workspace here. And now I'm going to double click on it. And now I see I have an SRS directory here as well. And in my package test, lo and behold, there's that file. And that file was in here. And the package is essentially telling me that this is the location. So my.pack.test. I didn't have to put so many parts on here, but I sort of just did that to show you how my pack test is part of the directory structure that I created for the package location for where Hello World activity is going to be located. And then the rest of the parts of the program are also out here, but the source is what we're generally editing. We also have this thing called an Android manifest, and it is an XML file. And I wouldn't edit it out here. In fact, I would basically edit everything inside of the Android project in the Project Explorer. And here's that file right here. If I double click on it, I see this is why I want to edit it here, because I have like a nice user interface for it where I don't have to work at it from an XML perspective, although it is an XML file. I just filling in data components that are associated, and I can add tags and add stuff to and permissions and stuff. And the Android manifest.xml file is where we're going to put in application features and permissions and all sorts of information about the project. And then in the resource over here, we're going to have the layout, which is kind of interesting. So configuration information is kind of outside of the project, but still in the same directories. The source is going to have all the class files. The Android, you're never going to touch this, and you're never going to touch this generated Java files, and you're never going to touch this one here either. This is all of the Android jar. This is the API files. You are going to actually, you're not going to look at bin either, but you are going to look at the resources, and what you're going to look at is the layout. And the layout is going to give us, in this example, main, which is another XML file. And the good part about Eclipse is that you don't have to edit, again, this XML file either. Instead, and you can close the previous, you can go back to the previous items, and you can close the tabs if you wanted to. Here's the main.xml. This is our user interface. This is what's going to show up on the screen. And if I make this a little bigger, you can see when we run this program, that says hello world. And I don't know if that says underneath it. I can't read it. But maybe there's probably a zoom in here. No, there's no zoom in here. I'm just going to try and find you. Here's a graphical layout versus the XML. No, that wasn't there. There's the XML code. There's the graphic layout. But we build the user interface by dragging components and putting it on here and defining it. So it's very event-driven. And the user interface, we can populate it with items here, form widgets, text fields, and stuff. And what I'm doing is I'm just clicking on these items to open them up. We can essentially drag things over, create it visually, or we can do it programmatically. So in the first tutorial, we're going to do both. I'm going to edit the XML file to show you how you can add stuff to the screen, input boxes, and basically create a form if you wanted to out here. And then you change the code in here in the source directory in the class files that you're writing and stuff. So let's say we created this project. Actually, the project is pretty much a hello world at this point. And let's say we want to run the project. We're going to run it on what's called a virtual device, but we don't actually have any virtual devices created. So we can take one of two approaches. We can try to run it and get an error message that will prompt us to create the virtual device, or we can take and just create the virtual device. But I'm going to see what happens here if I just run it. So what I've done is you can run it from here if you'd like, and just do a run as Android application. Or I can right mouse click on it, come down to the bottom, and say run as Android application. Either way, I'm selecting an Android application. And I'm not going to save the changes here. So say changes, no. I'm going to save the changes. And the project contains errors. Please fix them before running your program. Well, I think it's probably because I didn't save it, actually. So let's see. No, don't say that. So I'm going to... why does my project contain errors? My project should not contain errors. Let's just try that one more time, actually. If not, I'm going to close. The project contains errors. Alright, so I'm going to close Eclipse and bring it back up again, because I shouldn't have any errors. And if I bring it back up again, I'm going to see in my Eclipse window that project because I didn't close it. I just left it open. So Eclipse tries to pick up where you left off. So this is, again, another way of seeing Eclipse. It does have an error. It does have an error message. Let's see. Just see where it has the error. Maybe the error is that I don't have the virtual device created. Interesting. Generally, when there is... Oh, now it went away. It's kind of interesting. Well, let me try to run it one more time. I might have to create the device first. So, project contains errors. Please fix them before running your application. Interesting. When there aren't any errors. All right. This program's behaving badly. Let's see. Here's an error down here. What is the error? Debug certificate. Okay. I'm gonna close this project. And I'm gonna try something else. Actually, let me just go to new project here again. And I'm gonna create one of these Android sample projects. And I'm gonna say 4.0. I'm just gonna try it again. Don't really know why that error is on there. API demos. And then what I'm doing here is just selecting one of these sample projects that's written first, just to see if the sample project is going to generate the same error. Let's see. So I see API demos was created. Appears to be working. Let's go into here for a second, and I'm going to go into Window, and I'm going to check my preferences. Open perspective. Let's see. Wait a minute. I'm sorry. I'm going to go into Eclipse and check the preferences, and make sure that the Android directory is set correctly, which it is. Okay, that seems to be set correctly. Customize. We're good. We're good. We should be good. Interesting. There appears to be a problem with the configuration. Let's see. Let's see if the Android AVD manager actually works. Let's see. Let's refresh this for a second. I may end up having to reboot the computer to reset things. It seems there's a list of existing Android devices located. Okay, let's try new here. Let me try and create a new device and see if that's might be the problem. I'm going to call this a AVD 4, just so it's like AVD 4.0. And the target's going to be a 4.0 application. What I'm doing is I'm creating, I don't have a virtual device to run this on, which might be the problem. So what I'm going to do is kind of just create the virtual device and see if that, that's not a problem. I'm going to delete this one here. I don't know what this simulator thing was. I'm going to delete it. Confirm you want to delete that device. Yes. So now I have a proper device, so it's not going to try and run it with that other device that was improper. And I'm going to go refresh. This is good. Okay, very good. And edit. Interesting. It appears to be having problems with configuration. Let's see, device admin sample. Let me take 1 second here to see if I can figure this problem out. Well, here actually, I'm gonna troubleshoot the other one instead. Just gonna remove this. Let me go back here for a second. Make a change so I can save it. Okay. So let me try and run it. I got the error message to go away by saving it. I'm not quite sure why. When I'm getting that little box that shows up intermittently. I'm going to run this again as an Android application. Project contains error. Please fix them before running your application. Well, I'm going to try one more thing then. At least we're not getting it, which is interesting. I am going to close and reopen this as well, just as another kind of troubleshooting. What you're seeing now is live troubleshooting because I don't know why this is not working. So let's see. close project. I'm going to double click on it, open it back up again. Interesting message, or not message, but interesting icon that appeared. Okay. There was an option in the older browser to clean this up, which is what I'm looking for right now, actually. And it basically cleans out temporary memory and stuff like that. Here it is, clean. Here's a clean option. What I'm going to select on the project. Clean all projects. Okay, clean. Well, just clean all projects. And what it does is goes through and kind of resets everything. Makes it so that that's interesting. Maybe that's the device icon. Resets all the memory, clears out all temporary stuff, all error messages and stuff. Anyway, project still has errors. Huh. Interesting. Let me take another look here then. Looking for a new, something new that may have changed. Build, okay, no. Here's my perspective. Looks good. Looks good. Just looking for any potential problems that might exist. No. The ADV manager opens up just fine. Alright, well I'm going to give it one more shot. If not, I'm going to end this video and see if I can troubleshoot it and come back and basically explain what happened. So let me just run this one more time just to make sure. Alright, error generated, final archive. Has something to do with a debug certificate. Kind of an interesting error message. Debug certificate expired. Debug certificate expired. Interesting. Maybe it's something to do with the project. I'm going to close this project. I'm going to try one more thing real quick here. I'm going to close the project. And I'm going to add a project. I'm going to import a project here. And the project is going to be existing project into the workspace. And I believe I have a Hello World project on my computer somewhere. Let's see where that's going to be. Oops. There we go. I have a, in my documents, I have an old project that I'm going to load in here to see if that doesn't solve my certificate problem. Let's see, created AVD4 based on, okay. Alright, okay. Let's see what I've got here. You know what, I don't believe it liked my, let's see, lab one. It didn't like my, doesn't like my package, obviously. Okay, hold on a second. Let me just update the package information a little bit. Now, this project, this old project was built on a previous Android API, so I'm going to need to take this off and figure out what error. So this is the error I'm getting, which is that your project contains errors. Please fix them. And run your application again. And the errors of the projects I'm experiencing is a debug on a certificate that has expired. So what I'm going to do is end the video, and I'm going to figure out what this error message is all about, and then I'm going to come back and tell you how to fix it. Just in case you run into this error message. You shouldn't run into the error message, however, although it might have something to do with Indigo, and it might have something to do with Eclipse in the current version, but I'm going to troubleshoot this error message, and I'll see you shortly with a fix.